Every morning when the sky is still painted with the quiet hues of dawn, God extends to us a gift, life, breath, another chance. But how many of us accept this gift with open hands and thankful hearts? How many of us pause, even for a moment, to acknowledge the grace that allows us to rise? Far too often we wake up and rush into the day as if waking up were something we accomplished on our own, as if the beating of our hearts and the air in our lungs were guaranteed, as if the alarm clock was the reason we opened our eyes. We take for granted what is not promised. And when we do acknowledge our mornings, how do we begin? Not with words of gratitude, but with sighs of frustration. We wake up already tired. We wake up already irritated. We wake up already weighed down by the burdens of yesterday, dragging them into the new day like heavy chains that were never meant for us to carry. Instead of saying, "Thank you, Lord, for this new beginning," we say, "Ugh, I don't want to get up." Instead of marveling at the opportunity to live, to breathe, to experience another sunrise, we complain about the tasks ahead. We grumble about work, about responsibilities, about aches and pains, about things that are trivial in the grand scheme of life. But tell me this, what if God only gave you tomorrow the things you were thankful for today? What if the blessings you took for granted were suddenly gone? The roof over your head, the family members who love you, the strength in your body, the ability to move, to think, to speak. What if they were taken away simply because you never acknowledged them? It is a sobering thought, one that should shake us awake, because gratitude is not just about good manners. It is about recognizing the presence of God in every small thing. See, gratitude is a door. It opens the way for more blessings. It keeps our hearts aligned with God's will. But when we neglect it, when we fail to appreciate what we have, we close that door. Ingratitude is a seed, and when it is planted in our hearts, it grows into bitterness, entitlement, and spiritual blindness. It makes us see lack where there is abundance. It makes us focus on what we don't have instead of cherishing what we do. It leads us to live in a constant state of dissatisfaction, always chasing, always wanting, but never content. And don't think that gratitude is only for the good times. True gratitude shines brightest in the struggles. Can you be grateful when the bills are piling up? Can you be grateful when the doctor's report brings bad news? Can you be grateful when life knocks you down? That is the test, because gratitude is not about ignoring pain. It is about recognizing God's presence in the midst of it. It is about understanding that even when things are not perfect, even when the road is rough, God is still providing, still protecting, still guiding. Some of us only remember gratitude when we have received something new, when something exciting happens, when life is going well. But gratitude should not be seasonal. It should be constant, like the air we breathe. It should be the first thing on our lips when we wake up, before our feet even touch the floor. Because to wake up is to witness a miracle. To wake up is to be given another chance to live with purpose. To wake up is to know that God is not finished with us yet. Words are not just sounds that fall from our lips. They are seeds. Every word we speak plants something in our lives. Some words plant flowers, others plant thorns. Some words bring life, others bring destruction. And yet, so many of us wake up in the morning, and the first thing that leaves our mouths is not a word of faith, not a word of hope, not a word of kindness, but a word of complaint. We do not even realize that before the day has had a chance to unfold, we have already shaped it with our negativity. It starts small, so small we don't notice. I don't feel like getting up. I'm so tired. Today is going to be awful. I hate my job. Nothing ever goes right for me. I don't have enough. And with every word, we are setting the atmosphere. We are laying the foundation of our day with bricks of despair, frustration, and defeat. And then, when things go wrong, when the day turns out exactly as miserable as we declared it would be, we say, see, I knew this was going to happen. But was it life that made the day hard? Or was it the words we spoke before it even began? Negativity is more than just complaining. It is an open invitation for struggle. When you speak negatively, you are calling trouble into existence. You are declaring failure before you even try. You are speaking defeat over a battle that has not even begun. And let me tell you something. The enemy does not have to work very hard to ruin your day if you've already done the job for him with your own words. And it doesn't stop with us. Negativity spreads like wildfire. A single spark can set an entire forest ablaze, and so can one bitter word. Think about how we speak to those around us. A parent wakes up and tells their child, "You're so lazy." A spouse wakes up and says, "You never do anything right." A friend wakes up and texts, "I hate my life." Words carry weight. They either build up or they break down. They either encourage or they destroy. They either bless or they curse. And once they are spoken, they cannot be taken back. How many relationships have been poisoned by careless words spoken early in the morning? How many dreams have been crushed because someone heard negativity instead of encouragement? How many blessings have been blocked because a person woke up and spoke against their own future? Some of us have been carrying words that were spoken over us years ago. Words that told us we weren't good enough, that we would never succeed, that we were unworthy. And yet, instead of breaking free from those words, we repeat them to ourselves every morning, reinforcing the chains that were placed upon us long ago. Negativity is a habit, and like all habits, it can become second nature. We do it without thinking. We wake up and our first thoughts lean toward what is wrong, what is lacking, what is unfair. We train our minds to search for problems instead of solutions. We focus on what we do not have instead of what we do. And the more we do it, the harder it is to stop. The more we complain, the more we find to complain about. The more we curse the day, the more the day seems cursed. And don't think that negativity is just about the words we say out loud. Nothing is cursed, and nothing can save you. It can never. Oh no, my dear ones, the words we speak in our minds in the silence of our hearts carry just as much power. If we wake up and think, "I am not enough," that thought becomes a belief. If we start the day thinking, "Nothing good ever happens to me," we begin to live as if it were true. Our thoughts become our reality. Our words shape our destiny. The truth is, what you speak, you invite. What you declare, you prepare for. If you keep saying you are tired, you will always feel exhausted. If you keep saying you are broke, your finances will always feel lacking. If you keep saying you are unlucky, opportunities will slip through your fingers. If you keep saying you are not worthy, blessings will seem out of reach. Life and death are in the power of the tongue, and yet so many of us choose to speak death over our own lives without even realizing it. And let's not forget the spiritual weight of our words. God hears them, every single one. He hears when we speak defeat instead of faith. He hears when we use our words to tear down instead of build up. He hears when we declare everything that is wrong instead of believing in what could be right. And if our words do not align with His promises, if our speech is constantly filled with doubt, fear, and complaint, how can we expect to walk in His favor? Morning comes and the world moves quickly. The alarm rings, and before our feet even touch the floor, our minds are already racing, thinking about work, about responsibilities, about schedules and obligations. We rush to check our phones before we check in with God. We reach for social media before we reach for the Word. We prepare for the day ahead, but we do not prepare our spirits. How many of us wake up and step into the world without covering ourselves in prayer? How many of us begin our day relying solely on our own strength, our own wisdom, our own plans, without even pausing to acknowledge the one who gave us breath? We treat prayer like an afterthought, something to do if we have extra time, something to squeeze into our schedule, rather than the very thing that should shape our schedule. But let me ask you this. Would you leave your house without putting on clothes? Would you walk into a battlefield without armor? Would you start a journey without a map? And yet this is exactly what we do when we step into the day without prayer. We leave ourselves exposed, vulnerable, unprotected. We walk into the unknown without guidance. We take on the burdens of life without seeking divine help. Prayer is not just a religious routine. It is a necessity. It is the difference between walking in light and stumbling in darkness. It is the foundation on which our strength, our peace, and our wisdom are built. But when we neglect it, when we treat it as optional instead of essential, we open the door for chaos to take control. And it is not just about the act of praying, but about the heart behind it. Some of us only pray when we need something. We come to God like He is an emergency hotline, only dialing His number when trouble comes. We cry out when we are in pain, when we are desperate, when we have exhausted all other options. But when life is going smoothly, when things are falling into place, we forget. We become self-sufficient in our comfort. We act as though we can handle things on our own. But what kind of relationship is that? Imagine a friend who only calls you when they need money, who only reaches out when they are in crisis, who ignores you every other time. How would that make you feel? And yet this is how some of us treat our relationship with God. We neglect Him when we feel strong and only seek Him when we feel weak. We forget that prayer is not just about asking. It is about connecting, about listening, about aligning our hearts with His will. And then there is reflection, something just as vital yet just as often overlooked. Morning is a time not just to pray, but to sit in silence, to listen, to prepare our spirits for the day ahead. But in today's world, silence is rare. We wake up and immediately fill our minds with noise. The news, the notifications, the emails, the endless distractions. We consume information, but we do not pause to process it. We react, but we do not reflect. We live on autopilot, moving from one task to the next, without ever stopping to ask, what is God saying to me today? Where is He leading me? What lessons did yesterday bring that I need to carry into today? Reflection is the practice of stillness, of allowing God's voice to be louder than the world's. But we avoid stillness because it forces us to confront things we would rather ignore. When we sit in silence, we hear the truth. We hear the convictions, the areas where we need to grow, the wounds we need to heal, the forgiveness we need to extend. We hear God calling us deeper, calling us higher, calling us away from the things that are draining our souls. But instead of listening, we drown it out with distractions. Some of us struggle in life not because we lack talent, not because we lack opportunity, but because we lack spiritual discipline. We expect to walk in strength when we have not fed our spirits. We expect clarity when we have not made time to hear from God. We expect peace when we have not spent time in His presence. Prayer and reflection are not luxuries. They are the very things that keep us anchored. They are the shield against the troubles of the day, the compass that guides us, the fuel that strengthens us. But when we ignore them, when we push them aside in favor of busyness, we make ourselves easy targets for stress, for doubt, for temptation, for everything that pulls us away from the life we are meant to live. The morning is sacred. It is the foundation of the day, the first breath of what is to come, the moment when the tone is set for everything that follows. But some of us, instead of filling our mornings with peace, fill them with discord. Instead of stepping into the day with grace, we step into it with anger, resentment, and an unwillingness to be a vessel of love. How many of us wake up already carrying the weight of yesterday's frustration? We go to bed with bitterness in our hearts, and we rise with it still clinging to us, shaping our thoughts before the day has even begun. We let old arguments, past disappointments, and unresolved conflicts follow us into the new morning, and instead of greeting the day with hope, we greet it with hostility, and it does not stay within us, it spreads. Chaos is not content to remain in one place. It moves, it grows, it infects. A person who wakes up with anger will pass that anger on to their spouse, their children, their co-workers, their friends. The energy we carry is contagious, and whether we realize it or not, we are constantly influencing those around us. Think about how often mornings in households are filled with tension. Parents rushing, snapping at their children, spouses exchanging cold words, families starting the day in conflict instead of unity. The home that should be a place of refuge becomes a battleground before the sun has even fully risen. And then we step outside carrying that same energy into the world. We honk our horns in frustration at other drivers. We roll our eyes at strangers. We walk into work irritated, short-tempered, unwilling to extend kindness. But let me ask you this. What happens when a person chooses to spread peace? When a person wakes up and decides that no matter what yesterday looked like, today will not be filled with hostility. The world is already filled with enough conflict, enough division, enough cruelty. Why would we choose to add to it? Some of us wake up already looking for something to be upset about. We scroll through the news searching for something to fuel our frustration. We pick fights over small things, allowing minor inconveniences to dictate our mood. We hold on to grudges, refusing to let go of past hurts. And in doing so, we allow negativity to have dominion over us. But peace is a choice. Just as we can choose anger, we can choose patience. Just as we can choose hostility, we can choose kindness. Just as we can choose chaos, we can choose stillness. And peace is not just about avoiding conflict, it is about creating harmony. It is about being intentional with our words, our tone, our action. It is about speaking gently when we could raise our voices, about listening instead of interrupting, about offering grace where judgment would be easier. It is about being the calm in the storm, the steady hand in the midst of uncertainty. But some of us, we have made chaos a habit. We do not know how to function without stress, without drama, without conflict. We wake up and create problems where there were none simply because peace feels unfamiliar. We mistake stillness for boredom, harmony for weakness, and we invite disorder into our lives because we have not yet learned the power of choosing peace. And do not think that spreading chaos is always loud and obvious. Sometimes it is subtle. It is the whispered gossip, the passive-aggressive comments, the refusal to apologize, the silent treatment given instead of a conversation had. It is the negativity we pour into the world without realizing the impact. The question is, when you wake up, do you bring peace into your home, your workplace, your community, or do you bring tension? Do you make the world around you lighter or heavier? Do you leave people feeling encouraged or exhausted? Because the truth is, the way you begin your morning does not just affect you, it affects everyone you encounter. If you wake up with chaos in your spirit, you will carry it like a storm cloud over everything you touch. If you wake up with peace, you will be a light in a world that desperately needs it. Every morning, God gives us a new beginning, a fresh opportunity to walk in His grace. Yet far too often, we misuse this gift by neglecting gratitude, speaking negativity, ignoring prayer and reflection, and spreading chaos instead of peace. We step into the day thoughtlessly, unaware that our actions, words, and mindset determine the path before us. But mornings are sacred. They set the foundation for everything that follows. A heart filled with gratitude invites blessings. Words filled with faith create hope. A life anchored in prayer brings strength. A spirit that chooses peace transforms the world around it. If we continue these harmful habits, we distance ourselves from God's will, blocking the very goodness He wants to pour into our lives. But if we change, if we wake up with intention, with faith, with love, then each morning becomes not just another day, but a divine opportunity to walk in His light.